everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which you can walk a mile in someone else's shoes and not even have to go to a bowling alley. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Terrific Thursday. Maybe for some people. Hope you're all doing well. It has been another week. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. So what do we have in store for tonight on the wonderful world of TED Excellence? Well, I have no idea. This is one of those where the title caught my attention, and so I decided to look at it. But what is the title? Millennials aren't lazy. Their boots just aren't as big. I have absolutely no idea what that means. Or at least if I do, it's not coming to me in my recollection. So I guess we'll find out together. Now, what exactly is a millennial? Well, technically, it is anyone who was born between 1977 and 1995 or thereabouts. Anyone who came to adulthood by the turn of the millennium, I suppose, supposedly. Technically, I count as a millennial. However, the period just at the end, or I should say the 77 to 80 or something, is kind of that nebulous zone where you could be Generation X versus being millennial. And as far as I can tell, I have the temperament of a Gen Xer. I do not have the temperament of the stereotypical millennial. What is a stereotypical millennial? Well, maybe we'll find out in this presentation, because they're going to disprove to us that they're lazy, which we can all assume is a stereotype attributed to millennials. Anyway, before we get into all that, who is joining me on this wonderful Thursday night to learn more about millennials and their finances? I guess, given the title card there. Absolutely Degenerate, hello. Jamie Melquist, hello. Mike R, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Tall Person, hello. Lurking Gopher, hello. Gen T Maxi, hello. Shortline 614, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. Keeverdam, hello. And then chat jumped because, of course, it did. Who already go? Attack Alpaca, hello. Nobody Not Me, hello. Seth Mays, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Deco, hello. Zalbla, hello. Hell Triangle, hello. Roger Reynolds, hello. Fat to Cat, yo, hello. Noah Asensio, hello. Who else? Anybody else? Spittle Buggies, hello. Let's see. I think I said hello. Johnny Hellcat, hello. Losing my voice there for a second. That would be a bad turn of events. J2021 Techno Druid, hello. And Adabisi, hello. And I think, Lexi Mads is here. Well, good. We can start now. And Johnny Stoffel, hello. Also, let me get this before it disappears off the face of the earth. Where did it go? Where did it go? There it is. Thank you, Tall Person. Happy National Throw Short People Day. Anyone under 5'4" is fair game. Well, thankfully, I'm too tall for that ride. But Weibo Jones is probably within range. So look out, Weibo. Well, thank you, Tall Person. Let's see. I think that's all the important stuff, except for the bingo card. The bingo card tonight is card C. C as in cowboy boots. If you would like to participate in the polls to select the bingo card for the TED Excellence episodes, well, you have to follow me on Twitter and then look out for the polls that I usually post either the day before or the day of the next TED Excellence, which should be next Thursday. So there you go. Let's see, and Check Your Logic has something to say here about the subject. Scribe like, people usually fuck up when millennialism ends while everyone agrees it starts in 81 or 82. I was told you need to be old enough to remember the end of the millennium to be a millennial. Aha. Well, there are some, like I say, sort of floating definitions thereof. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't really start until 80, 81. I think that makes the most sense. But either way, we're going to find out that millennials aren't just lazy, their boots just aren't as big. Anyway, so with all that being said, I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed. This clocks in at 13 minutes and 28 seconds. I removed some of the music to avoid any kind of copyright entanglements or anything like that. So that's the only sort of editing I did on the subject. And also, thank you, Fat to Decatio. You're the man. Well, thank you, Fat Cat. Fat Cat. I am a man. I don't know if I'm the man, but I might be someone's man someday in my wildest dreams. Brad Young, hello. Simon Willikins, hello. All right. Anyway, let's go.
How would you feel?
How would you feel? I don't know. How would I feel? How does it feel to stand in front of a brick wall with a blue-gray dress on? Something, 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 something. I don't know. Does that show off my age? Does that show off my non-millennial self? You guys tell me. Let's see. Everyone hear that all right? Oh, and by the way, pinned to the chat, for those of you that are here live, and I think those that are watching in the future when you're watching the chat replay, there is a pinned comment by me with a link to the GoFundMe for our friend Zalbla. She's looking for some support in getting her life a fresh start, as it were. She is very close to her goal. So if you take a look at that, if you have a chance and you have a couple of bucks to spare, please think about donating there. Has anyone said they can hear that yet? No. You guys need to tell me if you can hear that, or else I clicked the wrong thing. So tell me very explicitly, did you hear that? And I'm not just playing silence or something. Sounds good, says Kieverdam. Okay, well, Kieverdam says it sounds okay. Then we'll go. All right. So how's it feel
if with just one summer of full-time work, you could pay for your university courses and your living expenses and still have some money left over for beer?
Well, I would have to assume that I'm going to internet college or something. University. Okay. Courses, housing, and have something left over for beer. By one summer's worth of work. I must have had an internship at Facebook with a ridiculous bonus. I don't know. How would I feel? I feel that something was wrong. That's how I would feel.
If you're sitting here thinking,
yeah,
that was my experience.
Well, I am not doing that, so that's an easy one.
Then you might be a baby boomer.
Oh, I see. Which, okay. I see. All right. One summer's worth of work paid for all of college and housing and beer. Now, see, here's the problem. I am not a historian nor an economist, so I have no idea if that summary is true or accurate. So unless or until somebody tells me elsewise, I'll just have to stipulate to it.
Born from 1946 to 1964. But if you're sitting here thinking, wow, that would be amazing, then you might be a millennial like myself.
Well, I'll tell you what, it didn't happen for me, and I'm Gen X. And yeah. And I don't know what my parents' financial situation was back then, but I don't think one summer's worth of work paid off all their bills. I don't think so. I'll have to ask them.
Born from 1981 to 1996.
Oh, okay.
My mother and I
yes.
had very similar professional experiences.
Okay.
We both attended the University of Alberta and graduated with our accounting degrees, hers in 1982 and mine in 2014.
So this is Canada. Okay, well, truth be told, I don't know what the financial history of Canada is insofar as paying for college and stuff. I'm thinking back to like, the GI Bill and things like that and that kind of deal. So whatever. Okay, Canada, your mother had an accounting degree, you had an accounting degree. You both went to the same school. Let me guess, things are different for you now as compared to your mother.
We would both then go on to earn our CPA designations at the same large accounting firm.
Wow, how boring.
You could say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Or nepotism is taking place. But what do I know?
But the truth is, the world was a much different place for her than it was for me.
What?
University cost my mom just $1,200 per year.
Boy, those were the days. Now, adjusting for inflation, how much was $1,200 then versus now? I honestly don't know, but that's the first question I would have.
Whereas my business degree was $8,000 per year.
Again, adjusting for inflation, what is $1,200 from back when your mother was going to school? I'm assuming it is a larger number than 1,200. I would be surprised if it was as large a number as 8,000. But again, are you going to account for that? Oh, accounting person.
A 567% increase.
Inflation. You are a CPA, yes? I'm not a CPA. Am I completely off base in asking that question? Please tell me you're going to adjust for inflation.
My mom's starting salary was $18,000, which was generous if you compared it to the cost of her first home, coming in at $100,000. Or
inflation, please.
5 times her annual income. My starting salary at the exact same company was $41,000 a year. So just a little bit more than double hers.
Okay, I'm God. This is breaking my brain. Okay, every time I cannot imagine an instance, at least off the top of my head, where someone has not brought up the cost of living at one point in history and the cost of living in this point in history, and not at least mentioned adjusting for inflation, that is X. And the fact that we have somebody standing on the stage who is a proclaimed accounting graduate and a CPA, and just going off like this as though that doesn't matter, as though that's not relevant to any kind of conversation about cost of living or pay or anything else between generations. It's giving me a headache already, and we're not 3 minutes into this thing.
But the cost of my first home was $600,000.
Wow.
That's 14 times my starting salary.
Oh my gosh. Wow. You sound like you've really been suffering throughout your life. Boy, going to the same school as your mother, getting a job at the same firm as your mother, getting a $600,000 house, $41,000 a year. I mean, boy, you've got it rough. I got to tell you.
Millennials face unprecedented financial hurdles when it comes to building wealth.
No. Most of the hurdles someone has in building wealth are based on the choices you make. Certainly, there are circumstances beyond your control when you're born. If you're born into wealth, you're going to have an easier time of it, conceivably, than if you're born into poverty. It's true. But it's all proportional. So if you want to build wealth, you have to make smart decisions with your money. Like maybe not buying a $600,000 house on a yearly income of $41,000. Just a thought.
The average student debtor graduates with $46,000 of student loan debt.
Well, if you can't pay it off, you shouldn't take the loan. One of the first, actually, I think the first gift I was given upon graduating high school was a book from a neighbor of mine who, I lived in the same neighborhood my entire growing up. So the neighbors right around me were like family at that point. And the book was called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a relatively brief book, but it is a book of advice on how to build wealth. And one of the first rules in that book is do not buy what you cannot afford. That goes for loans as well. So, yeah. If you're not able to, or you do not think you'll be able to pay off a loan, you might be well advised to reconsider taking out that loan. I don't know what else to say. It might sound mean, it might sound cruel or something, but them's the breaks, I guess.
And their starting salary is just $54,000.
You pay it back in installments like most loans.
Millennials have to work 3 times the number of hours that their parents did to earn enough for just 1 year of post-secondary. And housing in 2021 has skyrocketed.
Oh my gosh.
With the average cost of homeownership in Canada at over $700,000.
Oh, so you got a deal on your $600,000 house. Did you need to have that house in that location? Did you need a house that big? I mean, I don't know what house you got, but did you shop around? Did you try to find something affordable? Did you think about renting for a while and saving up some money or something? I don't know your situation, but
Millennials will not be able to earn and build wealth the same way that their baby boomer parents did.
I will agree with you there. Oh, wait, no, it's really about how you save, make, and spend your money, just like everybody else. Prices have changed based on what again? The mechanisms have remained fairly the same insofar as gaining and keeping wealth. You have to work, you have to save, and you have to spend wisely. That's kind of how it works. Now, life isn't always going to cooperate. Lightning bolts can fall from the sky at the most inopportune times. But the rules for gaining and keeping wealth haven't really changed since Babylon.
The wealth gap between these generations is compounded by wage stagnation and the gender wage gap.
Okay, well, going to the bingo card, if I hadn't already, let's go up to first free space, circling that, and the gender wage gap. Oh my God, I haven't heard that phrase in a little while. So both on the board, free space, wage gap. Let's review the bingo card while we're here. Plays victim. Oh yeah, I'm a millennial and everything's tough for me. Leaves out vital context. Inflation, circling that. Weightless example. I mean, I don't want to double dip on the inflation thing because her bringing up what her mom made versus what she makes, what her mom's house was versus her house, and not mentioning inflation kind of makes those examples weightless as far as comparatives. So I'm going to wait. No pun intended to weightless example. I'm going to wait and see if something more separate from that comes up. Anecdote that probably never happened. I can believe that she's earned the amount of money that she says she's earned, that she bought a $600,000 house, that she went to the same college and business as her mother. I haven't heard any anecdotes that sound out of bounds yet. Benevolent condescension. I might be safe to say it now, but I'll wait a bit. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No. And I'd be surprised if so. Feminism. You might say the gender wage gap by itself covers both wage gap and feminism. And you'd probably be correct, but we'll hold that in storage for a little while, in escrow, to use a financial term, and we'll hold off on that for a bit till maybe the end. Childhood or family anecdote. Yes, her mother's history, her growing up, etc. Privilege. Well, she's talking about privilege. She's talking about wealth privilege. She's talking about economic privilege in the abstract, and I'm sure that will continue as we go. Sales pitch for product or service, not yet. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, not yet. Patriarchy, no. And again, gender wage gap, we'll see. Mind reading assumes motives, not clearly yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, no. Word salad, not yet. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, not yet. Marginalization, not as of not as of yet, contradicts own point or argument. Man, that lack of mentioning inflation just would cover so many spaces here, but I'm gonna wait. Systemic institutional. Kind of. Did she say the word yet? Because she's basically been talking about the economy and everything. If she hasn't said it explicitly, I'm going to wait a bit. A list. Well, she did go over what mom made, what the house cost, so on. So I'm going to circle that one. White supremacy. No. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Not yet, as far as I can tell. Collectivize his own demographic. Millennials. All right, so on the board, we're only 3.5 minutes in, and boy, oh boy, plays victim, leaves out vital context, childhood or family anecdote, privilege, free space, wage gap, a list, collectivizes own demographic. We are on our way, folks. If we don't get at least one bingo out of this, I'll be very, very surprised, I should say.
Wages have been stagnant and even on the decline for the past 40 years.
Wow. The past 40 years. Well, how is it then that you're making more than your mother did? And boy, my pause game is on point right now, isn't it?
And the wage gap compounds this further.
The gender wage gap, right? Not an earnings gap, which it is, but a wage gap. Because women in Canada are paid less than men by design, which I'm sure is totally legal in Canada, just as it is here in the United States.
White women earn just 84 cents on the dollar. And if we add any level of intersectionality, the gap just gets wider.
Intersectionality. I'm going to circle feminism. Because feminism and intersectionality go hand in hand these days, and in most cases. And between the gender wage gap and now intersectionality, I think feminism is a safe spot to circle. So circling feminism.
With women of color earning just 62 cents on the dollar for the same work as men.
Earning. Well, I'm glad you said earning. You didn't say paid. So earning. Are there any other factors that are going into that? Like hours worked by any chance? Because having the same job title and making two different amounts of money between people, there may be other factors involved. So you going to mention that? Probably not.
These economic factors are compounded by this notion of being self-made.
Compounded by this notion of being self-made with air quotes. Okay, so the concept of, oh wait, I just got it. This is how dense I am. It must be because I'm a Gen Xer and not a millennial. Are you going to use the picking yourself up by the bootstraps analogy as some sort of evil notion? Is that what the boots in the title are referring to?
Not accepting any help from the outside.
That's not what self-made means. Self-made means you take the initiative to better yourself. You take advantage of the resources and the opportunities around you and work hard to leverage them for your advancement. It's not that something is just dropped into your lap. Now, some people might have it dropped into your lap, like, I don't know, getting your certification as a CPA in just surprisingly the same institution as your mother did. I'm sure there was no nepotism there. I'm sure that didn't just fall into your lap. I'm sure you did that all by your lonesome. But self-made does not mean you are an island doing it all by yourself. Okay? You know, some people are like, what, Daniel Plainview or whatever from There Will Be Blood. Some people are 100%, I am a rock, I am an island, did it all by my lonesome, nobody helped me. There are those few out there that make it completely independently, right? They scrimp and they scrape and they save and they climb their way to the top with almost no help whatsoever. Those people do exist, but they are a rarity. But that is not what qualifies completely as a self-made person. Okay? So I don't know what your notion of a self-made person is, but what you just said is not accurate.
or pulling yourself up by the bootstraps.
Can I call it?
But what happens if you don't have any boots?
Oh, come. Okay, well, what does not having boots mean metaphorically in that statement? Okay, what is it that you are lacking when you're talking about not having boots? What do you mean? Because really, the whole bootstraps thing, it's about grabbing onto the straps and lifting yourself up, right? So it's really about the arm motion. It's about the effort put into it more than it is the boots themselves. But hey, you tell me, what do the boots represent?
Or your boots just aren't as big.
What are you talking about?
How do you pull yourself up to have a comparable lifestyle to the generations before you?
That is not the yardstick you should be measuring by. You should be measuring by what do you need to do to make it and survive based on the opportunities and the resources in front of you. If you're going to keep doing a keeping up with the Joneses of the previous generation and say, I'm not going to be successful until I supersede those people over there, well, I mean, that's one way to set a goal, I suppose. But you might be more pragmatic and say, what do I need in order to make myself at least functionally independent and self-managing? And anything on top of that is cream cheese. Maybe that's just my philosophy. I don't know.
This 19th century phrase was originally coined to describe something absurd.
Oh, okay.
And that's exactly what it is.
What's that?
To pull yourself up by the bootstraps is frankly impossible.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I am reminded of a very famous thinker from my generation, from my growing up. He was a very wise individual, very old individual. And when someone near him, at least geographically speaking, looked at him after attempting to do something that was difficult and saying, you know, what you're asking is impossible, the old man said, do or do not, there is no try. So it is not impossible to be a self-supporting, self-sustaining individual. Does that mean you will be rich? Does that mean you will be wealthier than your parents? No. Because short of you having a trust fund or a golden parachute somehow, that's not guaranteed. You have to earn for you. You have to work for you. You have to make enough and save enough and spend wisely enough to sustain yourself. I've told this story before. I was at a Thanksgiving dinner many years ago at a friend of mine's family's Thanksgiving. And I met one of his siblings there. And we were sitting around after dinner, just, kibitzing or whatever. And they said, what do you do for a living? They asked me. And I said, oh, well, I'm in, contract processing for a firm and everything. And their immediate response at hearing what my job title was, well, I make more money than you do. Oh, sorry. They said, I'm more successful than you are. And I said, I didn't know what to say to that. I was like, well, I suppose that's possible. I said, I guess it depends on how you define success. And they said, well, I make more money than you do. And I said, well, that could be true. But I mean, I went to school with all by myself, and I made it through my classes, and I graduated, and then I got one job, and I did really good at that job, and I got this job, and I've done really well at that job. And just about everything that I've put my mind to, even though the first job I had compared to the second job I had compared to what I actually went to college for, all are miles apart from each other. I've done very well and I'm supporting myself, so I'd consider myself a success. And the response was, well, I make more money than you do. See, it all depends on your perspective, right? It all depends on your perspective. How do you measure success? How do you measure independence? You know? Now, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out what our speaker's perspective is. I'm getting a hint here, but yeah.
But our society continues to tell millennials to stop being so lazy or entitled and to just work harder.
Well, how hard are you working right now? How hard did you work to get into the firm that eventually certified you as a CPA? Did you, and I don't know. I'm being a little facetious here, but I honestly don't know. How much of a hand did her mother have in guiding her or opening doors for her to her current situation? Right? Her $600,000 house, her graduate's degree, her CPA certification, the firm she ended up at. Did she do it all by herself? Can she look back at everything that she's earned so far and say, I did it all on my own? But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong, at least so far as I can tell, with how she got where she is, right? I mean, what parent isn't going to want to help out their kid if they can, and granted that the parent is a decent parent, in getting along in life? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing villainous about a parent helping out a child or a family member helping out another family member or something like that. If you're able to do it and they're willing to accept the help, so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess, again, it depends on proportionality. What are you talking about? Work harder. Well, you don't seem to be doing that badly. So what is it that you are lacking as a millennial, as you've called yourself, that you think you are, I don't know, entitled to?
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yes.
As an aside, when I pitched this to Ted, an older white man came up to me after I was done.
When you pitched this to Ted, don't you mean TEDx? This is the off-brand TED Talk. Okay, an older white man, you say. All right, well, I'm curious to find out what his race has to do with this story, if this anecdote sounds believable, and was there any reason for bringing up his race?
An older white man came up to me after I was done to tell me that I was wrong. This was not what the millennials were experiencing. Okay. Because the millennials in his life did not experience the same things of the ones I was describing.
Well, there's the whole no true Scotsman fallacy. So you're the one putting everybody into one bucket. And your response was?
What I should have told this gentleman at the time,
which you didn't,
was that there are 5 economic factors that millennials face when it comes to financial instability.
So, posed with a challenge to your position, you had nothing to say. But after the fact, you found a rejoinder. Okay, going to the bingo card real quick. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. I have no idea why that guy's race mattered, but she sure wanted it to matter to us. So there you go. Anecdote that probably never happened. No, I can believe it happened because she just torpedoed herself by saying she didn't have a response. So I can believe that it actually happened, that she thought about it afterwards. And I know that we all have those instances where somebody says something to us and we think of the perfect thing to say afterwards. But all the same. So yes, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason has been circled. Moving on.
Wage stagnation.
Yes.
The gender wage gap.
The gender wage gap. Okay, well, I would have loved to see what his response would have been if you brought up the gender wage gap.
The housing crisis.
The housing crisis, which affected only millennials? What?
Inflated post-secondary costs.
What? What nonsense word are you speaking here all of a sudden?
And childcare.
Childcare, another choice in life.
These 5 have contributed to millennial wealth plummeting.
Okay, well, don't have kids if you can't afford them. Don't buy a house you can't afford. Also, the wage gap, or sorry, the gender wage gap is not a thing. Yeah, I can't say about the wage stagnation part. I don't know what goes on in Canada specifically, but all that other stuff, some of that's within your control and based on your own choices. Hate to tell you this. Well, here's the thing. I'm sorry to interrupt myself. I'm curious to know, what is going to be her offered solution to this problem? What does she think needs to be done to solve this issue? And how will that not be a form of entitlement?
When the baby boomers were our age,
yes,
they held 21% of the wealth in the United States.
When the baby boomers were our age. Okay, so the rest of the wealth was possessed by conceivably their parents and their grandparents. Okay.
Fast forward, the millennials currently only hold 4.6% of that wealth.
So are you entitled to the other 17% of that wealth? Or are there any other factors that are contributing to you not having as much money as your parents? It's all the system doing it to you. It's all the circumstance.
In 1989, the baby boomers' average net worth was $86,000. And just 25 years later, the average net worth of the millennials is just $6,000.
What's your average net worth as compared to your mother? Ignoring inflation completely, by the way, because that's what we do when we're an accountant. If she made $18,000 in her day and you're making $41,000 now, are you just a magical exception to the rule? You have a $600,000 house versus her $100,000 house? You're just, what, lucky? Did you work harder? Did you have something handed to you? How is it that you have broken the mold if your entire generation is nothing but victims of circumstance?
Now, this isn't about who had it harder.
Are you kidding me? Are you? You have spent the past 6 minutes and 46 seconds doling out to us nothing but a sob story for you and your whole generation about how much more difficult it is for you than your parents, after citing off your amazing good fortune as compared to your own mother. But it's not about who had it harder. No. If we really want to talk about who had it harder, let's go back to my parents' parents and say, oh, I don't know, the Dust Bowl or the Great Depression, and all the hard work that those people put in to put my parents in a situation where they could conceivably earn something more than their parents, right? And how about all the hard work my parents put in into their lives, into their jobs and their careers, the sacrifices they made to make sure that myself and my sister would at least have a good place to start by the time we came around. Well, it's not about who had it harder. No. We're not talking about victimization here. No. Okay, well, if it's not about who had it harder, please do tell me, what is it about?
It's about understanding the differences between these two generations so that we can empower young people to build wealth in different ways.
Are you going to adjust for inflation in those calculations by any chance? Okay, but here, sorry for the pause. How? Okay, you know what's wrong. You know everything's terrible. All right, accounting graduate. All right, CPA. What is the answer?
So how do we fix this?
Yes, I wondering. Okay.
How do we support millennials in their wealth building journey now that we understand the differences?
We don't understand the differences because you haven't adjusted for inflation.
The road to financial stability
Yes.
is different today than it was 20 years ago.
No, it's not. The window dressing has changed. It's true. But pants still have two legs.
But there is a role for all of us to play in the wealth generation of the next generation.
Oh, well, do tell. What is my role to play in making your life easier?
For my millennials.
Oh, well, I don't count them.
Here are 2 things that you can do right now for your finances.
Okay, all right. Let me see. Okay, let me think about this for a second. What can you do for your finances? Okay. Do not buy what you cannot afford. And ask yourself, is this something I need or something I want? Before you make any purchase outside of the basic necessities like rent and utilities and food. But even when it comes to food, shop around. Okay, so do not buy what you cannot afford and put a filter on your buying decisions, weighing between need and want. Now, it doesn't mean you can't buy something you want, but just be able to stop for a moment and consider, is this a necessity or not? That simple pause might save you some money down the line. Those are the first 2 things that come to mind for me. So what does our speaker have to say?
Number 1.
Yes.
Negotiate your salary.
I mean, that's not a bad piece of advice for anybody. If you have any leverage, I suppose, it depends on the circumstances. If they tell you going in, this is the set pay per hour or something. But yeah, okay. I mean, if you're in a situation where it's time for your performance review or something else, then sure, okay. It doesn't hurt to try.
It can sound like something so small, but in actuality, even a small increase in your starting salary can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars later on in your career.
Starting salary? I mean, again, I guess it depends on the circumstances. A lot of people are not going to be in a position where their first position at a company or a job or whatever else has any negotiating room. So that really doesn't apply to millennials writ large. But okay, sure. If in your starting salary, granted you are on salary and not being paid by the hour and don't have a set wage, and actually have any ability to do so, sure. Okay. Still sounds like kind of a niche piece of advice, but all right.
Just a $5,000 increase can mean $750,000 over the course of your career.
Okay, admittedly, it has been a long time, thankfully, since I've had to start a new job. But maybe I'm just that old. Is a $5,000 increase differential in starting salary a realistic expectation in most jobs, in most firms? I guess it depends. I really have to wonder if she's not being just a little bit myopic in her vision of exactly how work works, given her own experience.
And number 2.
Yes.
Investing.
Yes. Yes, I recommend everybody, if they can, get involved in their company's 401k plan if they have one. And if they don't, you should probably open up a Roth IRA or a regular IRA if you can, and just put in as much as you can afford, even if it's like $25, $50. Most places have some kind of monthly minimum you have to put in. If you can only put in the minimum, put in the minimum, you know, and find a good index fund, something that has a lot of spread. Unless you're a real expert at it or you know somebody who knows something and so on, you want to have a very diversified portfolio in your 401k and your other investments. And mutual funds are also good. Shop around for those because there are some out there that aren't necessarily that great. And if you go for a mutual fund and you talk to a mutual fund broker, be sure to ask them about their fees. Right? Where do their fees come from? At what point are they extracted? Are they extracted from your dividends? Is it an upfront kind of thing? How does that work? And also, don't be afraid to ask any investment broker or anybody else who's going to be guiding you in things if they are a fiduciary for your interests. It's a long story. Look it up.
With housing prices being at an all-time high,
rent an apartment, get roommates, maybe sacrifice something that you want down the line so you can afford to save up now.
The millennials aren't going to be able to see the same gains in the housing market that our parents did.
Then you're going to have to find other options. I don't know what to tell you. I don't own a house. I've been apartment living for a long time now. My sister doesn't own a house. My parents have owned, well, at least since I was born, 3 homes. And each time that they had to sell their house, the house got smaller and smaller because they didn't need as much room because they didn't have kids anymore. So I guess it depends. Again, do not buy what you cannot afford and weigh things between want and need. Do you need a house that big? Etc., etc.
We might not even be able to afford houses.
I can't, and I'm older than you are, conceivably. So am I a victim too? Or am I just making different choices and have different priorities?
But we can start investing. And not investing could mean giving up $3.3 million in potential gains.
Okay, again, that is not a bad piece of advice, right? You know, if you can contribute to your 401k, if your company matches contributions to 401k, definitely. But on the side, if you can, you should open up a mutual fund account, something basic, and just, every month squirrel away $25, $50, whatever their, monthly minimum is to donate into the thing. And just forget about that money. Don't think about it as part of your savings, your income. Just write it off as it's going into your investments and let it sit and do not think about it. Don't look at the reports every month and worry over it. It's for the long term. You got to think about it in the long term. So yeah, that part, she's not wrong. Just, ask for advice when you're doing it and shop around, just like with anything else.
You can start with just a small amount, even as small as $25 or $100 to start your wealth building journey.
It depends on what you're talking about. A lot of mutual funds or index funds and things have like a couple $1,000s at least to buy in. So again, shop around, ask questions, look at trends, that kind of thing before you sign that check.
And for my baby boomers, here are 3 things that you can do to support us as well.
Oh, okay. You're just going to skip over the Gen Xers? Well, good. I don't want to have anything to do with you, but okay. You tell me, generation 2 times removed from the baby boomers, what the baby boomers should do for you.
Number 1.
Yeah.
Building sustainable and accessible cities.
What? What?
We can do this through public transit and multi-generational housing.
Do you know how long it takes, how much money it takes, how much red tape there is, how much political wheeling and dealing it is to set up a mass transit system in any particular city? Do you have any idea what you're just saying so flippantly? Probably not. Just snap your fingers, baby boomers, and make cities more accessible and sustainable. Okay.
And building communities like this brings us all together.
Does it? Well, if the baby boomers are paying for it and doing all the work to make it happen, what do they owe you again?
Number 2, affordable and accessible childcare. Childcare is a huge financial burden for many millennials.
Many millennials that choose to have children. I don't know what to tell you. If you choose to have children, you are taking on a certain level of responsibility financially, time-wise, life-wise, etc. It's just comes with the package. I don't want to sound like a cold-hearted idiot here or something, but if you don't think ahead of time about whether or not you're going to be able to afford to raise a child, maybe you should decide not to have children for a while until you're more situated, or you have a sustainable partner in life, etc. I don't know. Now, that being said, I don't think childcare should cost an arm and a leg for parents, single parents or otherwise. There should be options, and there should be some kind of governmental supplement for that. Okay, I do not have the answer to that. I don't have a proposal for how that would work. But if someone is working and struggling to take care of their kid, they shouldn't have to necessarily go it alone. So, yeah, okay, there's my little rant on that.
2020 brought us the birth of our first child.
Well, no, 2020 didn't do that. You and your partner deciding to either A, not use birth control, or B, deciding to raise that child to birth did that. But I don't know. Is that just sort of a Freudian avoidance of responsibility, or am I just reading too much into it? Yeah, sometimes a cigar is just a phallic symbol.
And childcare is going to cost us $1,600 a month.
$1,600 a month? Well, let's see. You make $41,000 a year. Your partner, you haven't said. So let's be equitable and say he also makes, say, $40,000 a year. So you're making $80,000 a year. You got a $600,000 house. I have no idea what the mortgage would be on that because I've never owned a home before. But let's say that's a couple $1,000s a month, let's say, or maybe you got like $1,500 a month, whatever. But I don't know. How much do you have in savings? How much did you save up before having a child? Right? Or are you living paycheck to paycheck, which isn't a smart move to do if you got a $600,000 house? I don't know. Is that a great burden on you and your partner? Did you not think about that ahead of time? I'm assuming you could find out how much childcare would cost before you had the child, the 9 months prior. So, and that's your responsibility. Is somebody else supposed to pay for that entirely?
Or $100,000 before he enters grade 1. Okay.
I don't know what goes on in Canada. Is there any child tax credit or something to that effect that is meant to help with that kind of thing or to alleviate that burden somewhat? And is that the only daycare or childcare option you have? Do you not have the option to stay home and raise your kid and save money? You can't work from home, especially in this particular situation. I mean, are you completely out of options?
This is why policies like $10 a day daycare are so critically important.
Is that something that is in effect in Canada or something that's been proposed in Canada? Because I don't know.
And number 3.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is the third thing baby boomers can do for you. Okay, so just magically build accessible and sustainable cities with mass transit out of the blue, right? Okay. And then somehow bring down the cost of childcare to $10 a day. Okay. And number 3?
We need to vote for our daughters and our sisters and our mothers and our friends. We have to make this world a more beautiful place for the most marginalized of women.
Marginalized up on the board. And if we hadn't already circled feminism, I certainly would be circling it now. That's right, everybody. Women need help. Women do not have the upper body strength to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, so you need to do the work for them and help them because of their genitals. You know, and it's not as if anybody in a semi-healthy family would not already be helping and supporting their sisters, their daughters, their mothers, their friends, etc. You know, and vote for them just because. So nepotism, is that it? Well, if everybody votes for their sister, if everybody votes for their own mother, it's going to be a really interesting election. I tell you what. By the way, if you hadn't noticed and been following along at home, on the bingo card, something just happened.
Bingo.
What? Of course!
Diagonal from plays victim down to collectivize his own demographic. We have our first bingo. We're not even done with the show yet, or at least the presentation. Oh my gosh. And who knows, we might get another one before we're done. But anyway, guys, yes. Okay, so third rule, vote for women. Period. I made a funny...
We can do this through ditching the pink tax, things that...
The pink tax? Oh, man, I wish Satsu was here. Satsu loves talking about the pink tax. Boy, oh, boy.
Women pay more for than men.
Do they, though? Do they? The pink tax? Yeah. You know the biggest argument about the pink tax is like, the cost of a man's razor is so much less than that for a woman's razor, and they are basically the same thing. Yeah, it's that word basically that kind of leaves the gap for they're not the same thing. Yeah. Look at any argument regarding the pink tax and actually compare one to another, product to product, and then tell me, A, they're exactly the same thing, and then B, there's not a little thing called supply and demand involved as well. But anyway, our speaker here is operating on myths and rumors to begin with, so I'm not all that surprised. Thank you, Chicago Mike. OGNIB. Oh, bingo. Yeah, yes. Bingo backwards. Ognib. I hope that doesn't mean something else somewhere and I'm suddenly saying something terrible. But thank you, Chicago Mike. Or are you talking to us from the mirror universe?
Things like shavers and shampoo.
Which are all exactly the same one to another, product to product, which is why they have different labels and different ingredients, right?
And pens.
Pens? Okay, I haven't heard about pens being part of the pink tax. I'd love to see that one.
Yes, even pens.
Got a citation as a teal deer might once have asked.
And we can vote for inclusive representation.
Inclusive, on the board, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh my. Inclusive representation. What does inclusive representation mean? Are you talking about proportional to the population demographics?
That will allow us to close the wage gap.
So the politicians are going to close the wage gap. The wage gap, which isn't a wage gap, but an earnings gap, and which controlled for under, let's say, I don't know, different choices in how many hours worked, jobs taken, how many people stay at home, how many women stay at home to care for their kids versus the number of men that go to work, all these other things. More quote unquote inclusive representation is going to change human behavior. I wait with bated breath for that one to happen.
Building these policies into our community allows us to support wealth generation for the millennials so that they aren't left behind.
You're only going to be left behind if you don't start picking up the pace. I don't know. There are plenty of millennials that are doing just fine. because they have a good work ethic, they don't spend frivolously, and they don't waste all their time on Instagram or thinking that they're going to become an influencer or something. It's really a mindset thing. It's got nothing to do with what time of year you were born in.
Imagine a world
Yes.
where wages have kept up with inflation.
Wait, excuse me, what? What's that word you just used? What was that again? You want to like dial it back about 10 minutes and apply that notion to what you were talking about earlier between your mother and yourself? Oh, of course not.
Minimum wage would be $24 an hour.
Yeah, I guess it would. And just make that happen. There are no arguments for or against that happening, are there?
Or $50,000 a year.
Yeah. And what would happen to prices? Would they rise as well in response to such sudden wealth? Would small businesses be able to afford increased labor costs of that size and percentage based on what they're currently earning as a business? Are there no other things to consider when simply saying, raise the minimum wage? Nothing at all?
We index things like tax brackets and TFSA contribution room limits. Why are we not indexing minimum wage?
I don't know. You're the accountant. You're the CPA. Do you have any idea or notion about the counter argument to such a thing? I don't, off the top of my head. I don't have a full-on cogent argument against raising the minimum wage to that high, in Canada at least. So you must know what the counter argument is so that you can refute it with your better idea. Yes, because there is a counter argument, otherwise it would just be the case. So are you going to mention that?
In our fictional society, we have affordable and accessible childcare for all, supporting every new parent.
Why is it fictional? I mean, why isn't it just the way it is? You talk about all of the forces aligned against millennials, all of the circumstances and the policies that are targeting and victimizing millennials specifically. Okay, well, are you going to talk about the other side of the coin? What mechanisms are in place that are preventing what you want to have happen in your fictional world from happening? And then tell me, are those mechanisms inherently unfair or targeted, or are they the result of just how the economy works? I don't know. You're the one standing on the stage. You made the pitch to Ted, and then some guy came up to you and told you you're wrong. And you know what? He's looking smarter by the minute.
We don't even have to look that far to find great examples of this. Quebec has $7 a day daycare.
Okay. And who's paying for that? Is it in taxes by any chance?
And Sweden has 480 days of parental leave to use before a child turns 8.
And who is paying for that? Is it taxes by any chance? Or is it maybe because Sweden makes more money than some countries, and based on their relatively small population, there's more wealth to go around from what's generated by the government? I don't know. Are there any explanations for how those things are possible outside of just, I don't know, magic? Because the way that you just so flippantly say these people do these things, they just decided to. Nobody's being paid. Nobody's having to pay for it. Do you want to tell us about taxes, OCPA?
And lastly, in our fictional feminist society, we finally close the wage gap.
It's not a wage gap, it's an earnings gap. But you're correct. You're talking about a fictional society where you close the wage gap. So I guess, yeah, we are operating on a fiction, aren't we?
We can do this through mandating that companies disclose fair and equal pay with daily fines if they fail to do so.
Equal pay based on what? If two people have the exact same job, but one person's been there 10 years longer than the other person, and that person who's been there 10 years longer has accrued more raises over that time and is effectively paid more than the other person with the same job, do you fine the company? Do you call that unfair? Do you, I don't know, stagnate wages to avoid fines or encourage companies not to give anybody raises unless they incur fines? And isn't it already illegal in Canada to pay people differently on the basis of, say, gender, as one example? Now, admittedly, I am not that familiar with Canadian law as I am with American law, but I would assume that given Canada's temperament these days, it's probably illegal to pay someone differently based on their gender alone, if you can prove that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here.
Like they do in Iceland.
Like they do in Iceland. Okay, well, then you're going to have to tell me what counts as a violation and how you're going to monitor that and how you're going to audit that, who pays for that, and on and on and on, and how this is not going to somehow incentivize companies to move away from Canada or whatever territory they're in where this is taking place, or somehow end up penalizing workers to avoid further costs down the line. You tell me, CPA.
And we can ensure that women have access to their opposite sex colleagues' average compensation to ensure fair wages like they do in Germany.
I don't know how or what they do in Germany, but again, how are you going to manage that? If there is a man who works overtime every week in order to support his family, and a single woman comes into the equation who doesn't have a family to support, but has the same job title as the man, but doesn't work as much as that man, is her pay going to be prorated based on the amount of work the man does? And she's going to get money for nothing? What do you... And again, is it not illegal in Canada to pay people differently on the basis of their gender?
We can build a society that doesn't leave the millennials behind.
Oh, the poor millennials. Won't somebody please think of the millennials? Oh, and our speaker's suffering so with her $600,000 house and her $41,000 a year paycheck or whatever. If that's even what she makes now. She talked about when she first got her first job and everything. So who knows what it is now.
And we all want to build a society that is better for our children.
Yes. But I think all of us also want to build better children than what you're describing here or what you're acting like. But maybe that's just me.
One with less financial anxiety.
You know, do you live in this world? Less financial anxiety. As long as it requires money to live and survive, financial anxiety will exist, as it has since the beginning of economy.
And less dread when it comes to managing our money.
If you don't have a certain level of dread when it comes to managing your money, then you've got more money than you need, than you don't know what to do with. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
And right now, the millennials, they feel left behind when it comes to building wealth and having a comparable lifestyle to their parents' generation.
Well, you know what? Maybe they have to earn that lifestyle. Maybe that lifestyle is not going to be handed to them. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I don't have the same lifestyle that my parents did. You know, I don't have a house, but then I don't need a house. So circumstances are different. My sense of necessity and success and desire, I guess, are just different in that way. If I had children, if I had a family, I'd probably have a whole different set of priorities and requirements for living. And you know how I'd solve those problems? by solving them with my own 2 feet and my own 2 hands, or just put up with being mediocre, I guess. Either way, it's a result of my own choices and effort. But you and your husband and your $600,000 house and your newborn child, you didn't have to work for, or you did have to work for that. What are you asking for again?
But we can flip the narrative.
Yeah. Flipping the narrative, that'll fix everything.
On how we build wealth.
Mm-hmm.
We can build a world and a society.
We live in a society
that supports the changes that have happened in the financial industry over the last 30 years.
Does, I don't know, inflation have anything to do with that?
And in doing so, we will have a happier, healthier, and wealthier world. What if your children could attend university, be paid a living wage, and yes, still have some money left over for beer?
What? Well, my kid would have to have gotten grades good enough to get into a university. And if I couldn't afford to pay his way into college, well, then I'd have to talk to my kid and say, I can either get you to a community college, maybe, or you're going to have to take out a loan. And that's it depends on what do you want to do with your future, oh child of mine. Could my child get a scholarship based on their efforts? That'd be something, wouldn't it? And then have a house. I mean, these are all things that, require some amount of effort. I'm not going to, if I ever have a child, and I know it's a distant prospect at this point, but if I ever have a child, I am going to do everything in my power to provide for that child and give that child every tool and resource necessary for them to succeed in life. I am not going to hand them the solution. I will open a door, but they have to step through it. That's how my father did it. That's how I plan to do it. Because I have seen, and I am currently witnessing, I think, perhaps in my sight right now, the results of just handing stuff to people and making them believe they're entitled to something they haven't earned. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Thank you.
Gonna drink it? You're gonna drink it? You're not gonna drink it. Okay. Must be really good beer if it comes in a mason jar. Anyway, there you go, everybody. There's millennials aren't lazy. Their boots just aren't as big. She can't even pour her own glass of beer. She has to have it delivered to her by some off-screen helper. Okay. Well, all that being said, let's move on to the Mingo card. I'm going to go over it once myself, and then we will take questions, or I should say, suggestions from everybody on any squares left to be circles. There's where we are right now. Let's go over it. Weightless example. Oh boy, weightless example. Yeah, Quebec, Sweden. They just have these things. It doesn't mean anything. If you're not going to explain how they're able to pay for those things, those examples mean nothing. Because it's not just magically appearing. They just decide one day, oh, we're going to give everybody $7 a day daycare or whatever it was. That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. Anecdote that probably never happened. Of the few that she gave out, I don't disbelieve them. The guy coming up to her after she proposed her talk subject, her career path based on her mother and so on. There's nothing there that makes me think that it was there was a anecdote tailored to her argument. Benevolent condescension. Oh yeah. I've got the solution in my fictional world. It's all like this. I'm just going to ignore all the actual realities of life and economy and everything else. Everything's perfectly. Self-vilification or wretchedness. By no means. No. She's the victim, but a strong and brave victim. Sales pitch for product or service. She never did bring up the name of her CPA firm. And she never did say something like, I work for this movement or this organization or something. So yeah, she never named a product or a company or a brand, even relating to herself. So I can't really say that one. Microaggression, unconscious bias. If I stretched really far, as Mr. Fantastic might, I might be able to make an argument for unconscious bias, but I'm not gonna do that one. I'll leave that for anybody in the chat that has a good argument. Patriarchy, yeah. Given how much she was leaning on support women, etc., men make this, etc. I think there was enough ammo there for a patriarchy argument. And plus, she mentioned intersectionality, wage gap, the difference between men and women, voting for women, even out representation, and so on. Yeah, she was, if not saying the word exactly, she was heavily implying it. Satsu. Hey, Satsu, dude, I wish I'd had you on here for this one. She brought up the pink tax. Oh my gosh. I just know that if you'd been on here, you would have gone on like a 5-minute rant and I wouldn't have had to say a word. So I tried to take up the slack for your absence. I probably didn't do that great of a job, but man alive. As soon as she said pink tax, I'm like, where's Satsu? Oh, well, maybe next time. Mind reading assumes motives. Yeah, she knows that, baby boomers have done nothing to improve their cities, or find sustainable childcare. Baby boomers never had to deal with that. Gen Xers never had to deal with that. It's only a millennial problem. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And she knows that they haven't done anything about it, that they don't have any concern for their own children. I mean, come on. Good Lord. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. No, she never said anything that was unique. She never said anything like, this is something I like to call, etc. So, yeah. All right. This is an easy one. This really is, because how many times, actually, specifically, I'm going to say specifically, when she said, this is not about who had it harder, right? I mean, even though it was one phrase, you gotta be with me on this one, right?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Double bingo. Yeah. And you could also point to however many other instances in this deal where she just went into gobbledygook land, and yeah, okay. Contradicts own point or argument. How many times this, I hate to double dip on one example. There's plenty of word salad examples, but coming back to, this isn't about who had it harder. And all she did for the first 10 minutes of that was talk about how much harder millennials had it versus the baby boomers, and so on and so forth. Her opening line, what if you could spend one summer working and pay for college and housing and still have money left over for beer? Baby boomers could do that. We can't do that. Yeah, I'm inclined to, in that instance at least, mildly double dip on an example. Systemic institutional. We live in a society. The economy is built for this, but not that. We have it harder because of the wage gap. We should change policies. On and on and on. I don't know why I didn't circle it earlier, but I just did. And so, you know what that means.
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. B-I-N-G-O.
Okay!
Right?
Triple bingo down the diagonal. And lastly, white supremacy. She never said it, but there are arguments for it. And here they are. She brought up the race of the guy very pointedly. And she brought up specifically the difference in quote unquote wage gap between white women and women of color. Now, And she also brought up intersectionality, but that's more of a feminist thing. Now, the question is that enough? And okay, and this is going to be 2 bingos if this is circled. Okay. So this is not a flippant question. And I'm basically done. This is where I'm at on the card. Was there enough in this presentation, just within the presentation, and not reading between the lines too much, to justify circling white supremacy? If you think so, and you guys have to be as pragmatic as possible, because this is a double bingo single square here, okay? If you think there was enough in the presentation to justify circling it, give me a 1 in the chat. If not, give me a 2. I am very hesitant to lean towards a 1 myself, but given the circumstances, and I can't make it unilaterally, I'll leave the argument to you guys. Is there enough in the totality of her presentation? I got a 2, I got a 1, I got a 2, I got a 1, I got a 2, I got a 2. No, because privilege can be male privilege, Sato Sonata. It can be a lot of privilege can come out in different ways for different reasons. White supremacy is a very specific concept. 2, 2, 2, 2, and don't vote more than once. Yes, thank you, Kiever Dan. Yeah, it's you know, I tie goes to the hesitant, as it were. So yeah, I'm not. I mean, now if someone has an individual argument otherwise, it's going to have to be a really good one. But just on the basis of the content of the presentation, I'm hesitant on a double bingo risk here of circling white supremacy. That was not a central enough theme to her presentation where I'm comfortable circling it. Okay, that's my sense. So I'm going to leave it uncircled. But now, if you guys have arguments for squares not circled, and honestly, there's not many squares left. That one covered a lot of ground, I got to say. But if you have arguments for squares not yet circled, they're going to have to be good ones because I've gone over them all, and you have to have a really good argument. I'll entertain them now. If you have one, please be sure to tag me in your argument so that I can see it in the chat more clearly. A couple of programming notes while I'm waiting for any arguments. Let's see. Next time I'll be live on the air will be Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream. What will I be covering on the Sunday stream? I have no idea. I honestly haven't given it much thought to this point, but I've got a couple of days to figure it out. Now, why haven't I been giving it much thought the last several days? Well, I've been hard at work, and most of my spare time in between work and elsewise chipping away at my next true crime video. Yes, I am working on a second true crime video. I am pacing myself so I don't get overwhelmed. It's coming together relatively nicely at this point. I'm just into the phase where I have to start working in interrogation footage and then deciding how and where I might comment on such things that actually need commenting, because some of the stuff in there is kind of self-explanatory. The running time as of right now is 14 minutes, but that's before I even get to the conclusion. So I'm imagining this sucker might run into the 30-minute mark like last time. I'm trying to make sure I don't go any further than that in the final product. I want to keep it like at a uniform kind of half an hour at most kind of deal. But anyway, I'm working on it. No ETA for when it'll come out. If I'm really efficient and ambitious, maybe sometime next week, but we shall see. So just hold on to your horses for that. And again, to anybody who's here because of my first true crime video, thank you for all the support and views on that thing. That has been the fastest watched video insofar as view count in the history of my channel. And a very popular piece, and I'm glad people enjoy it. I hope the next one is at least as entertaining. Let's see. Bridget. She herself has unconscious bias, thinking that the boomers are just inherently better off than her. Despite her being well off herself, unconscious bias can happen in age too. Ooh. That is a good argument. Is the speaker themselves demonstrating something on? I don't know. I don't know that I've had an argument like that before, at least for unconscious bias. I don't know. Okay, that will make a bingo. So again, because it's so novel, I'll give you points for it being novel, first and foremost, whatever the decision is. But chat, do you think Brigid's argument rates a circle? 1 for yes, 2 for no. And you only get to vote once. So give me your best shot. Do you think she's made a good argument there? Because I'm impressed with the creativity. Let's see. We got a 1, we got a 1, we got a 1, we got a 1, we got a 1. All right. Well, never let it be said that I cannot be swayed by the wisdom and enthusiasm of my audience. So that being said, I guess we end up with another bingo.
Bingo. What?
Of course.
All right. There you go. Oh boy. All right. Any other arguments for squares yet to be circled? Let me scroll down here a bit. Mike R. She brought up race and age as a weak and pathetic attempt at an insult. Yeah. Was that supposed to go to a particular square? Because I already circled race and age for no reason. Or race specifically, because she brought up the fact that he was white and it had nothing to do with anything. Might need some clarification there. Let's see. Anything else so far? No. I don't see anything tagged with me. Now you're talking about Australia. Okay, well, I'll give it another minute or two here if you have any other arguments for squares to be circled. I mean, even if not, this has been one of the more successful bingo cards that we've had in quite a while. I mean, holy cats, what we got? I got to count them up now because I'm relatively blind when it comes to assessing these. Okay, we got 1, and we got 2, and we got 3. Okay, and I think, oh yeah, we got this one here. Yeah, so we got quadruple bingo so far, which isn't too shabby, all things considered. So there you go. Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 bingos. That's pretty good. You know, and if that's where we have to stop, and I think it might be, that's pretty good. Doesn't say much for the speaker or the presentation. And again, I just picked this out of the hat. I just saw the title and thought, I have no idea what she's talking about. Of course, dummy me, I didn't think about the whole bootstrap thing until, halfway into the thing. But either way, yeah, well, there you go, guys. An argument for millennials to get more help. They need more help because of when they were born and because they just can't make it on their own, as told to us by someone who has a university degree, is a certified public accountant, has a job, or at least started at a job at the same firm her mother did, and is making several times more than her mother made. Because we're not going to adjust for inflation and actually, I don't know, maybe have a better argument about the whole stagnated wages part, or I don't know. But it was a terrible opening, and it plagued her and haunted her throughout the presentation. And I'm just the ghost to do that. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to see some more TED Excellence, well, there's a whole playlist on my channel, of course. And I'll be here again next week at this time, Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another TED Excellence, where I will look at an off-brand TED Talk, or perhaps even an actual TED Talk. And again, I hope to see you on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream. And also keep a tab on me on Twitter, because when something happens with my channel or I have a new video to show off, I will post it there. Also, something I forget to say, as I should say at least once a show. If you happen to share a link to one of my videos or one of my upcoming streams or anything like that, particularly on Twitter, if you would, please be sure somewhere in the tweet to tag my Twitter address so that I know you did so I can thank you personally, because I really do appreciate the fact that you guys share my stuff, because YouTube does a terrible job at letting people know that smaller content creators exist, and therefore you guys are my best algorithm, and any other content creator's algorithm. Do so for other content creators if you like them. Or even if you don't. Maybe hate tweet them. It's fine. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this. I hope you found it entertaining as I found it enlightening. And I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.